everybody. My name is Cassandra Solano. I am a clinician of 17 years, a therapist, and a life and relationship coach. And today I want to talk to you about some nervous system chat. And the topic is, are we wired for protection or connection? So hello, if you are joining, please say hi and let me know where you are coming from. We're going to be talking about nervous system stuff and how we get wired for protection or wired for connection. So whether or not we remember our early childhood or have access to adults or caregivers that can tell us what even our experience was in utero, our birthing experience, or our early childhood experiences, we can still look at how our nervous system responds to situations today as an adult to get an idea if our nervous system is wired for connection or wired for protection. Hi from Kentucky. I hope you are far away from those floods. Hi from Iowa. Awesome. So what we know and what the neuroscience tells us is that when we have a caregiver with a regulated nervous system and a caregiver who has the ability to attune to us, meaning they are able to make us feel seen, felt, and heard and respond to us in a timely and appropriate manner, that co-regulation helps our nervous system to develop to be healthy. Hi from New York. Hi from Connecticut. Yay, we've got people from everywhere. Awesome. And if we don't have a caregiver or a parent with a securely attached attachment style with a regulated nervous system, that is like the blueprint that our nervous system gets shaped and formed off of. So you can imagine if you had a parent or caregiver that struggled with addiction, mental health issues, had their own untreated, unhealed trauma, like my parents certainly did, that the quality of their nervous system directly impacted and shaped my nervous system. From the time we're in our third trimester, when we're in utero, our brains and our nervous systems are already being developed and neural pathways are being set that are going to be there for life unless we do something to change it and to heal our nervous system. So if you can imagine that you didn't get this quality of attunement, of connection, of secure attachment as a baby, as a young child, again, it could have been intentional or unintentional by your caregivers, by your parents, then that directly shaped and impacted how your nervous system developed. Your nervous system was a blueprint basing itself off of your primary caretakers. And our nervous system, I always use the example of a topiary, like one of those plants or trees that people can trim to make into different shapes, like a heart or a duck or something. And you can imagine that if you had a nervous system raising you, that your nervous system was mirroring, that it was blueprinting or mimicking, that was dysregulated, that is the pattern that your nervous system from the time that you were in the third trimester in utero was already developing. And this, again, is not hopeless. I'm going to talk about how we change in a minute. But our nervous system is going to shape one of two ways. So if you didn't have a securely attached caregiver or caregiver with a dysregulated nervous system, your nervous system was probably shaped, or think about like a topiary, in a certain shape for protection. And that means that you learned at a young age that other people weren't there consistently or reliably, or there wasn't enough safety and security growing up. So your nervous system was built and shaped for protection. And let's say protection is like, I don't know, a duck. So that's what the shape of yours looks like. And when we have a nervous system that is shaped for protection, that means our default mode is dysregulation. That means our default mode we often find ourselves in is fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And that's how we move through life. And when our default mode is protection, we are always going to choose protection and survival over connection and intimacy, safety, play, vulnerability. And you can see if we are always choosing protection and survival and immediate short-term, what we think is safe, versus long-term things that could actually improve the quality of our life, like intimacy, vulnerability, interdependence, connection, being visible, being seen, we can have two very different lives shape or pan out. Someone says, pregnant with my first, congratulations, trying to regulate my nervous system as much as possible to help this babe inside of me. Oh, beautiful. I love it. I love it. That is beautiful. I was a big advocate for perinatal mental health when I was in grad school because I was a pregnant graduate student myself. So when we have a nervous system wired for protection, that is going to shape how we view so many things in life. We're going to always be looking for threat and danger. We're going to often be kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. We are going to be suspicious, hypervigilant, have a difficulty trusting people, tend to see people in situations with a negative bias or in a negative light. And if you can imagine taking that mindset and that mentality into friendships, into romantic relationships, into career and work experiences, of being distrustful, of assuming the worst, of shutting down or putting walls up when people try to get close to you, we can really see how having a nervous system wired for protection, often through no fault of our own, really can tremendously impact the quality of our lives and lead to things that we think of as our fault, like self-sabotaging, like going from one unhealthy relationship to the next, like continuing to have friends that maybe don't appreciate us or end up in very one-sided relationships. And we think that these things are like our fault or our flaws, but it's actually, the root of it is because we had a nervous system that was shaped from a very young age for protection, and that has influenced, subconsciously or not, all the decision making of our life. So what we want to grow and change towards, and what we can grow and change towards, because our nervous system is neuroplastic, that means our brains are always making and growing new connections, just like a tree. As long as a tree or a bush is alive, it's always growing new branches and growing new potential and possibility, but we have to reshape it. So let's say we had this nervous system shaped for protection and it was a duck-shaped bush. Now as it grows, we want to go in and trim and change it to, I don't know, a mermaid, a cat. Choose whatever bush shaped thing you want to imagine that your nervous system shaped for protection is going to look like. And we can do things intentionally to heal our nervous system and to heal our attachment style and to start creating evidence that people are safe, that the world, that we do fit in. I don't want to say that the world is a safe place, because depending on where you are in the ladder of privilege, it's definitely not a safe place for many folks. But we can learn how to create a sense of safety within ourselves, or to locate safety around us, and to differentiate between when we are in actual danger and when our nervous system is just perceiving threat and danger. Because that's the protective part, right? The nervous system wired for protection is always scanning and looking for cues of threat and danger and watching for danger. And we're spending so much energy on that. And it's really jading our perception and leads us again to unhealthy relationship patterns, etc. So we can definitely reshape our nervous system towards connection and for connection, where our standard default is innate trust in selves and our others, more positive or optimistic outlook on life and on situations, more positive self-talk, and more positive kind of self-concept, more positive expectancy of outcomes, and that leads to us feeling safer to take risk and to try new things and to put ourselves out there for friends, romantic relationships, career moves. And we know when we are wired for connection that even if we try and something doesn't work out, we're going to be okay, because we've restored that sense of connection with ourselves. And that's where inner child work and things like parts work or IFS can also be really, really helpful. So I weave all of this into my one-on-one work. I am accepting 2 one-on-one clients for August. If you're interested, head to the link in my bio to check that out. Okay, I'm going to scroll up and just look at the comments really quick. Someone says, I feel myself always seeing more than one way to communicate. I can feel the pull to both protect, stay quiet and curt, and connect, which feels like being fake or too mushy. Yes, sometimes I use the analogy that when we start getting awareness of how we want to be, a person that finds it easy to connect. We want to grow and heal our nervous system to be wired for connection, but we still haven't created enough experiences and gathered enough evidence to kind of switch that to our new default, and we're in this in-between transition place. It can feel like an internal battle, like an internal struggle, right? And our brain and our nervous system don't like change, because being wired for protection has kept you alive this long. I didn't say it kept you thriving. It didn't keep you living your best life ever, but being wired for protection has kept you like upright and breathing and living this long. So a part of you is gonna be like, we don't need to change, right? Like, it's fine. You haven't died yet. Like, it's fine. It's fine. And that part, there's a protective part called our firefighters, although I like to think of them as the SWAT team. They mean well, but sometimes they will say some BS lies trying to keep you from changing. So even that thought that, oh, if I am being communicative, I'm being fake, I'm being mushy, I would challenge that thought and say, is that actually true? Like, what is the actual evidence that I'm being fake and mushy? Or is this just something that my nervous system is telling me? Is this just a thought that's trying to protect me and get me back into quiet, into collapse or shut down or people pleasing or being curt, whatever it is that you had to do to survive your childhood or past relationships? Someone relates with one-sided relationships. Someone says, you give me faith, I can have healthy friendships. Yes, yay, I hope so. I hope so. And it starts with us, with us healing our nervous systems, healing our attachment style, healing our relationship with our inner child, and creating safety within ourselves, that we feel safe to become authentic and vulnerable and to take a risk and to put ourselves out there and to extend ourselves to meet new people and expect that it's going to work out, and know that even if it doesn't, like, you're not going to fall apart. But when we were a kid and we reached out for our parent or our caregiver's attention, support, a hug, we fell down and had a boo-boo and ran to them for attention. And if we were met with any variation of being dismissed or having our needs or our pain minimized or even shamed, then we learn to that it's not safe to reach out, and that's part of how we get wired for protection. So part of healing is starting to say, I'm going to wire myself for connection by taking small, tolerable, brave steps to take risk, to connect, to put myself out there, to have a positive interaction, and let that evidence start building so I can rewire my nervous system. Someone said, I read the children's book, Alexander's No Good, Very Bad Day, and it reminded me of my childhood. I'm so sorry. Yeah, it's just that quality of not being seen and not feeling like you matter, right? And when we're kids, that's so painful. I remember when my parents would get mad at me, it was like physically painful in my body. And so then we shut down and we become wired for protection. Someone says, could it contribute to anxiety and depression? Yes. So nervous system dysregulation is like the kind of underlying root, according to researchers like Deb Dana and Stephen Porges, of pretty much every mental health disorder. And it just manifests in different ways. So I'm not saying depression and anxiety don't exist. I have depression that I get treated and take medication for, and it absolutely helps me. And I also want to address root issues around healing my nervous system, healing my attachment style. That's kind of like the long-term plan. Because when we go into what's called dorsal vagal or a shutdown response, that can feel a lot like depression. Or when we're activated into fight or flight too often and too much, that starts turning into anxiety disorder, right? Okay. Someone says, advice for overstimulated person and always going person in relationship. So if you are a person that's like more activated or that has more energy, I would suggest that you look for activities and friends and places where you can expend your energy. If you're a person that has to go to the gym or join a local hiking group, you can find stuff like that on Meetup, or, join a gym where you can, like a small private gym that feels more like a community than like a big chain gym. So you can get that need met for connection, but also be around and with people that are maybe more active or have more energy. On the other side of that, if you want to think about it in nervous system terms, if you're finding like you're always on the go and you don't feel like you can slow down or you can rest or you can relax, that could be an issue where you don't feel safe to slow down. So I just want to invite you, if you feel like you're a person that always has to be on the go, to think about like, what would having a day or even a week of completely unstructured time. You don't have to actually do this. You may not have the ability to do this, but even just imagine, what would it be like to have a day or a week of completely unstructured time where you would just literally wake up and do whatever your body felt like doing and eating whatever you felt like eating and sleeping when you want to sleep. If that feels like, holy crap, nope, I have to have things planned all day. I have to constantly be going. It's because your nervous system is stuck in a sympathetic state in fight or flight, and it probably has been kind of stuck in go mode for a long time, and thinks that on some level you have to keep moving to stay safe. And this is absolutely reinforced in our hustle and grind capitalistic society. I suffered from this for years and years. I used to just love, when I was in my early 30s, just, I'm so busy, and just like being the busiest person in the room. And I just wore big old busy badge of honor and was a dance mom and a karate mom and worked in management full time and had to travel for work and was nursing and, and it was like, oh, look how Girl Scout troop leader, right? I overpacked my schedule to the max because I didn't know any other way to live. I didn't know how to slow down and relax. And my nervous system had learned, based off of my past childhood and experiences as someone that got love and attention and rewarded for achieving. So we see this a lot with like hero children, is that it wasn't safe to slow down. And I actually had to learn, and yoga, and there's a lot of trauma-informed yoga now, actually really helped me with that, because it was still pairing movement, but also with some stillness, or movement with presence, or movement with breathing techniques and paying attention to my breath. And yoga really helped my nervous system feel safe just to fucking downgrade from like full tilt all the time, and actually help bring me into a more ventral or regulated place where I could relax more often. Yeah, someone else is identifying with always being busy. Okay, any other questions? I am going to repost this and talk about, if you're just joining, I talked earlier about what are some of the childhood experiences that lead to our nervous system being wired for protection versus connection. How we're neuroplastic and we can change to be wired from protection towards connection, and a little bit of what that looks like. I'm also accepting 2 new one-on-one clients, so if you want support with this, head to the link in my bio and apply for a consultation call with me. Change versus protection. Yes, so that is like always the crux of this thing, is that when we are not resourced, not regulated, don't have enough support, don't have enough safety, don't have enough boundaries, and we're just trying to like change like with just willpower, our nervous system is always going to collapse and default towards protection, towards, fight, flight, freeze, shut down, fawn. We need safe relationships. And sometimes for us, that starts with a 12-step therapist, church group, a coach, a therapist. I think I meant to say a 12-step sponsor. It starts with like just having that one safe relationship that can help us to feel resourced, and tapping into our other resources as well, creating boundaries so we can have kind of the sticking power to hold and maintain the change. It is not your fault if you have been struggling to change and you keep falling short. You need more safety, more safe relationships, more support, better boundaries, more resources, and more nervous system regulation. That's what you need, and it will happen. I know you want to make the change. Someone says, I don't want to steer the purpose of your live, and I appreciate you reading and responding to the chat. I have a question. How much hiding my emotions and relate to emotional sobriety? How am I hiding my emotions relate to emotional sobriety and or CPTSD? Yeah, so this is kind of what I was talking about earlier on. When our nervous system is wired towards protection, which if you are a person that identifies as having CPTSD, then you definitely have a chronic, pervasive, long-term history of stress and trauma that probably shaped your nervous system for protection. So part of having a protected nervous system, hold on a sec. Go to the front, please. Go to the front. Okay, sorry, y'all. My kids are at the door trying to get in, and I have to tell them to go around. Mom life. So part of being wired for protection looks like hiding your emotions. I wanted to use your words. Hiding your emotions. Absolutely. Because if you grew up in a house where it wasn't safe to show your emotions or feel your emotions or express your emotions, and when I mean it wasn't safe, that means your emotions weren't mirrored back towards you. Like, you're sad. I'm sorry you're so sad. If your emotions weren't validated, like, it's okay to be angry. It's just not okay to hit your sister, but it's okay to be angry. I would be angry too. If your emotions are dismissed, if your emotions, if you face hearing a threat, I'll give you something to cry about for your emotions. Or if you experience shaming for your emotions, right? Like, girls don't cry, big girls don't cry, big boys don't cry, or you're so sensitive, or I don't know why you're crying about this. Any of those experiences and more can definitely lead to us feeling like we need to hide our emotions, and are part of having that nervous system that's shaped for protection instead of shaped for connection. And what you want to start doing is start showing your emotions, just cracking that door open a little bit at a time with people that are really safe and that you feel like you can really trust. And if you don't have any people like that in your life, again, finding like a support group, a coach, a therapist as kind of the training wheels to work with while you build out other safe relationships, and then start taking those risks of opening up and showing and getting in touch with your emotions more. If you haven't seen the Disney movie Inside Out, it is a great movie that talks about the validity of all emotions. So how we rewire our nervous systems for connections as adult, again, is through safe relationships. And for a lot of us, we don't know how to have a safe relationship or what one looks like. So that's where getting psychoeducation, coaching, therapy, self-help group, church group, right? There's spiritual groups that get together, but coming into relationships and into communities with other people that are self-reflective, that are committed to a personal healing journey and path, are good places to start kind of locating some people who could potentially offer you safe relationship. And then we take steps to kind of undo, just like I talked about the example with somebody who has a hard time showing emotion, taking small steps over time to create evidence for our nervous system that it's safe for us to show our emotions, that it's safe for us to expect good things will happen to us, that it's safe for us to be vulnerable, that it's safe for us to set boundaries, that it's safe for us to have interdependent relationships. The more that we create this evidence, the more it becomes we create new neural pathways in our brain. And that's like the reshaping of the topiary, or reshaping of our brain from protection to connection. So I have a new client who is in a long-term relationship, and their partner said something over the weekend that upset them, and they kind of stewed on it for a couple of days, well, like a day. And then today, she told me that this morning she went up to him and let him know, hey, when you said this thing to me the other day, it upset me. And normally she would just like not say anything and shut down and just like kind of collapse into shut down around it. And it turned out really great. Her partner was really receptive and was like, I didn't mean it like that. I'm so sorry. And boom, through her taking that difficult step, and it was difficult for her to speak up and say something and share that feedback with her partner, she was able to create a new experience, or start to reshape, a little trim, a little cut of the nervous system to reshape towards connection, because she created some evidence that when she expresses her feelings and her genuine felt experience and her truth, that it can be heard, it can be received, it can be listened to, it can be honored, and it could even be like respected, where somebody takes action to change it. And that was not her experience growing up when she would share her emotions with her caregivers. Janet says, work with Cassandra, you won't regret it. Thank you, Janet. You were amazing to work with. This was so helpful. Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, I do not see any more questions. I'm going to buzz off. I will be live next Monday at 3 o'clock. I've been going live on Mondays. It's been great to connect with all of you. I am going live, though, a special live this Thursday, August 4th at 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern, with JoJo of Healing Shame. And we're going to talk about grief, shame, and guilt in healing. This is one of those experiences that often gets people stuck in their healing journey, is grief, guilt, and shame. So you do not want to miss that live. I hope to see you again on Thursday at 5 o'clock. And if you already know you're ready to work with me one-on-one, head to the link in my bio and fill out an application, and we will get on a complimentary consultation call. Me and you will chat on Zoom this week. It will be awesome to connect. You're so welcome. All right, y'all. We'll talk soon. Bye.